What is going on? I'm Des with DesFit, and in this first part of my Garmin Edge 1030 review series, let's do a hands-on and gloves-on test with that new enormous touchscreen. So the new Garmin Edge 1030 is really exciting with a slew of new features like the rider-to-rider messaging, improved waterproofing, the trendline popularity-based routing, a greatly improved Strava Live Segments feature, and a lot more. And yeah, all that stuff is really cool, but if the touchscreen sucks, none of that may even matter. The touchscreen on the Edge 820 wasn't exactly met with wonderful reviews, and personally, I returned it even before going for the first ride because the touchscreen was just a little bit too frustrating to use. Touches are okay, the sensitivity was pretty bad, but the scrolling just made me want to throw it off a cliff. I ended up returning it and exchanging it for an Edge 520, which was already 2 years old at that point, but that once again validates why physical buttons will still be sticking around for sports devices. So the Edge 1030 has a lot to improve on over the 820 in regards to the touchscreen, so let's see how it performed. Just a note, I first tested the touchscreen with the 2.3 firmware that was preloaded on the device, and I found the touchscreen to be not that great, but after upgrading it to the 3.2 firmware, it improved a lot, so make sure to update your firmware if you're having any issues. With bare hands, touches and presses work very well and are very predictable, and you shouldn't have to press numerous times to select an option or a field. However, long presses seem to take a little bit longer than what I would typically expect from a touchscreen device, but once again, they are predictable and positive just like short presses. In regards to sensitivity, rather than have a global sensitivity setting, it has separate sensitivity settings for each activity profile, which is in line with Garmin's extreme level of customization that you can do with nearly all their devices. However, I simply cannot tell the difference between the three settings, and that was the same experience I had on the 820. Short taps, long taps, light presses, hard presses, as well as scrolling behavior didn't seem to act any differently regardless of which setting I had selected, but everything seemed to work well in all three of the settings. And talking about scrolling, this is probably the main reason I was so frustrated with the 820, and although it has greatly improved, it's still going to be a little bit choppy, but it is so much better. It's now a lot more in line with smartphone touchscreen behavior, and it's definitely a lot smoother than before. It still has that slight bit of lag where you don't immediately start to see the screen move like you do on smartphones, but it's pretty darn good. In regards to moisture, I was definitely concerned about water or sweat accidentally activating the screen like it can do on the Vivo Active 3, which I have also been testing. Thankfully, moisture doesn't activate the screen like it does in the Vivo Active 3, and I tested this both with tap water as well as sweat, and neither had an effect on the touchscreen. Using the touchscreen with moisture is a huge improvement, and I have zero complaints here. But how does it work with gloves? This is probably where the Edge 1030 really shines, as I tried everything from really thin gloves to standard mountain bike gloves, simple cheap cotton gloves, fall weather gloves, and even thick lobster claws, and I am completely blown away at how well the Edge 1030 works. The thin gloves worked perfect, but that's probably to be expected since there's so little material on these. The standard mountain bike gloves also worked really well with both the index finger as well as the thumb. Even simple cotton ones that were a little bit thicker worked well even without any capacitive material. For cold weather gloves, it worked really well with the Giro Blaze fall weather gloves, but these do have some capacitive material built into the index finger and thumb, so that was to be expected. Unfortunately, thick winter gloves like the Perlizumi Pro Amphib glove and the Lobster Claws just won't work with touchscreens, but that's unsurprising. So I went in with not so great expectations, but even though the scrolling behavior is a little bit choppy, the rest of the experience using the touchscreen was really good. So definitely huge improvements over the 820 in my opinion, and if this was holding you back from getting all the other cool new features, I can definitely say that it works really well. This is just the first part in this review series of the Edge 1030, so subscribe to the channel to get notifications on future episodes where I'll be going into a lot of detail into all those other neat new features. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.